As young artists, we have a responsibility to do that because we are the musicians who are performing on stage.
Appreciate the people that we love, we like, we work with. Appreciate the family, the colleague, the friends.
Once the pandemic hit, I had to learn who I was without my violin.
Once you have a clear view of where you want to be, expect difficulties and have the strength to overcome the difficulties and ultimately achieve the objective that you want to pursue.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 6 of Artist Confidential, which is also the final episode of this series. It has been such a great pleasure and a huge privilege for me to have really deep and heartfelt conversations with all of the guests who have been on the show. To commemorate this final episode, we are filming at a very special location, and we will be doing things a little bit differently today, as today's guest artist will be me. So who might be asking the questions you might ask? Well, I wanted to speak with someone who I would feel completely comfortable and genuine with. He knows me best and has been with me literally through all the years of my life. Welcome, Dad.
Thank you, Esther. It's such a great opportunity to be able to take part in this very special program, Artist Confidential. I've watched the set of programs and I was astounded by the genuine sincerity of people sharing their difficulties, their aspirations, how they cope with it, and their dreams. And it dawned on me that the more we share, the more we learn from each other, and the more stronger we become. And also we could tackle problems together. I think it is so important. I'm so glad to be part of this program because now I can ask you the questions.
Yeah, it's great.
And people can find out all the secrets about you. I noticed that you introduce your guest, and to actually do my role properly, I prepared your list of accomplishments for this program.
Okay, great.
Let me read that for you.
Okay.
To highlight a few of Esther's accomplishments, she has been selected as Classic FM's top 30 musicians under 30 and was named as one of WQXR's 20 artists to watch for 2020. She became a BBC New Generation artist in 2014, after which she became a founding member of the Zen Trio. She was the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra's first ever artist in residence in 2018. And recently, the Strap magazine, who featured her as a cover artist, described her as the model of violin soloist in the modern age. Wow, what an accomplishment.
Thank you. Would you please tell us a little bit about this beautiful location that we're filming at today?
Yeah, actually, this is a very unique place. I think many people realize that this is a Hanok, a Korean traditional house. It has been more than 100 years old, and actually people are living. And this place, we have traditional music performance like 거문고, 가야금, 판소리, and what is really unique about this place is this maru. There's a room there and there's a room behind me, and this is very open space. People sitting here like you and me can feel the nature throughout the 4 seasons. I could see the colors changing and the flowers. And also it's just serenity, so peaceful and calm. Even while we are in Seoul, we could find this type of place. I realized that because of a pandemic, many people, including students and artists, forced to stay at home with the social distancing and not allowed to travel that much. And just realized that you are staying in Korea for the most of the pandemic. I think that is for the first time in your life in a way. So how was that experience to you?
You know, it was a really eye-opening experience for me in many ways. And also it's something that I've always wanted to experience, being a Korean person, but having always lived abroad and having been born in the US. I think just being in this society here and being involved in the cultural aspects, in the daily aspects of living here, there's a lot to learn, or there's a lot that I had to learn and that I discovered, which I didn't really know that I was missing, but I thought just coming here every so often, staying for like 2 weeks at a time, I felt like I knew Korea. But then after living here, I really got to know Korea. And also I think I got to know who I am as a Korean person in a much deeper way. And I think it's not something that I really understood was missing from me, to know that part of my identity, which seems really funny to say it now because obviously I am Korean, but being here, being surrounded by people who look like me, who speak the same language as me, and who share the culture and the food and all of that, in a way it brought a certain kind of guard down within me. So I felt like I didn't have to put certain walls up, which actually I didn't even know that I was putting up before.
Even the short span of maybe 1 year, and probably less than 1 year and a half from 2020, but think about what you have done over that short period. You were able to teach a lot of young students, master class, as well as write articles. And also, I'm so happy that we were able to co-write the tea guide. And also, you appeared on the Strad magazine as a cover artist. And also, you signed a new music management in the United States. That seems like just a lot of activities that you're able to accomplish, even just one short period. How did that happen? I mean, was any kind of special motivation?
At the start of it, it was very uncertain because nobody knew how long this is going to last and when is my next concert going to be. I spent my fair amount of time really resting better than I ever have before, and really taking care of myself and exercising and watching a lot of Netflix. But at a certain point, I realized I can't spend what was becoming several months like this. I also realized this is an opportunity because aside from music making and performing, which is my greatest passion, I still do have a lot of other interests and goals that I'd like to pursue. And I often felt like I never had time to do those other things in my life before, but this was suddenly the moment where I could try to do those things. And so it was exciting for me in that way to be able to delve into this different and new aspect of my life, and to push myself in other creative ways, whether it's writing. I mean, I've loved writing from a really young age. I also curated 2 new video series, including this one, which were huge projects, but I'm really glad I did them, and it's very fulfilling in a completely different manner from what I'm used to as a performer. And yeah, I think it was the moment for me to dive into these other opportunities and to kind of broaden my scope and to try new things.
I think that is so important because one of the teachings that I give to students, especially when you are young, in 20s, it is so important to have a lot of experience, a lot of trials and errors. And I think that's the way we become stronger, better, more insightful, more appreciating person. Because if you haven't tried it enough, you just don't have enough context to be able to relate to other people in variety of culture, a variety of state. I think that is so important to, especially younger generation, and also to everybody in general, to be less concerned, because only way we can find what's behind that door is open the door. If we don't open the door, we don't know what's behind it. We should not be concerned about ourselves. Appreciate the people that we love, we like, we work with. Appreciate the family, the colleague, the friends. I think appreciation, I think I'm gaining much more sense of the importance of appreciation, yeah. Being able to relate and appreciate. And also the second thing is, you should not be afraid of difficulties lie ahead of you. As long as you have clear desire, objective, what you want to achieve. Now, clearly that is something, depends on every person. But it is, once you have a clear view of where you want to be, expect difficulties and have the strength to overcome the difficulties and ultimately achieve the objective that you want to pursue. I think those are the kind of lessons that I learned, at least for myself, through the difficult pandemic. I think being able to share that difficulties makes all of us to think we have experienced the same difficulties, all of us. And that gives us a strength, because it's not like myself, yourself. It is all of us having the same type of problem, give us a strength to work together to solve the problem. And I think that is so important, especially for the younger people. Not only see just the pure stage, bright light performance, music making with the audience, but also the challenges, and there are ways that people are experiencing it and people can overcome it. So
I think also another very important element for me was the sense of responsibility, because during my time away from the stage, I thought about many different aspects of my life and what I want to achieve. And of course I can go on performing hundreds of concerts, but I also thought about what am I contributing? How am I giving back to society? How am I leaving my mark in this world? And of course one can say I do that through my music, but I also wanted to share some other parts. And I think this post-pandemic period can be a really great opportunity for us to shape the classical music world in a different way. And who's going to do that? Well, I think as young artists, we have a responsibility to do that, because we are the musicians who are performing on stage. And when you're kind of in that loop of playing concerts and traveling, you don't really think about those things. It was only when I stepped away from that I started having these thoughts. And then I had such conversations with my friends and colleagues. And yeah, I'm really grateful to the people who came on the show, because if you hear the conversations, everyone wants to make some change. Everyone sees the future differently. And so I think it's important to share that and to be a part of the change and to be a part of our future.
I watch online performance.
Yeah, I'm curious, you as a consumer, how do you find it?
Because I watch online performance, and I think there's a big difference between concert hall, sitting there, to watching through a monitor. One is I get telephone calls while watching a concert. But in concert hall, I have to be totally dedicated. A lot of interruptions, birds flying, dogs barking, house on fire. There's so many different types of things.
Where are you watching
a
concert?
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of ambulance. I mean, a lot of things going on just watching the concert.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a fully engaged to that concert. And sitting there is fully engaged. People that please turn off your mobile phones, etc. And I come to realize that the music performance in that setting has developed over the years, hundreds of years. to that shape. Engineers spend a lot of hours to come up with best architecture so that audience can feel the orchestra and the soloist, the chorus, the best way. So to me, it's interruptions and not engineered. But what it does is give me the opportunity to watch it. If I don't have it, I don't have anything.
Right.
Okay, so I think clearly it gives the opportunity to be part of that experience. But to me, the live concert performance is still what many consumers or the fans like. People can watch baseball, football on handphone, but people always go to the stadium because that excitement, that feeling. Although I may not see every single angle, but gives me that the sense of part of that music making, or part of the excitement, part of the accomplishment. I think that is still a missed when you are watching through the online. So there's a benefit giving to many people, but we all want to have the choice to be able to go to live concert. And I think that is also, I think artists also feel the same way, that they want to be with the audience. Because as a professor, I give lectures through online, Zoom class. Clearly there are people showing emoticon of clapping, comments, great, thank you. But being able to hear from the students, so much different. So I think we all want to go back to the normal life of having human interactions, human appreciation, and togetherness. Yeah. We are all there together.
You know, everyone I've spoken to so far has said digital performances are definitely a solution, but it's not a permanent solution, as in it can never replace live performances, no matter what format that live performance may be. The concert hall and live performances have been such a huge part of my life since my very early childhood. When we were living in the US, you and Mom would take me to really great concerts from like the age of 4 at Lincoln Center and Carnegie Hall. And I actually wanted to ask you, you know, not a lot of parents take their like basically still a baby to such great concerts, and I don't think it's even allowed now for a 4-year-old to enter those kinds of venues. So I'm curious, like, what drove you and Mom to do that?
I think there was like family discount that I could bring a child for free. That may be the only motivation, right? So I get maybe if I bring a child, I may get an ice cream or something.
Okay.
I don't know, but like
free toy.
Yeah, free toy or something. There must be some kind of motivation. Right. But anyway, I'm just kidding aside. I think at least I believe in the young age, born to like 5-year-old. I think that is the most important period of anybody development, and also I believe in having a lot of experience and exposures, and through the experience and exposures, we shape our thinking, our perspective. We make a decision based on the experience and exposures, and people can develop the interests. So we wanted to create as many diverse experience for you. Could that be Lincoln Center, some performance? Be able to sitting and listening to the orchestra. Could be, I remember I took you to the musical Cats when you are like young and you didn't feel too good.
Yeah, I was really
yeah, I mean, we're kind of debating whether we should go or not to New York. I mean, but so you become too ill in a way, so we have to kind of leave in the intermission. But I also remember taking you to the Pokemon movies and so many different movies, or the games and athletic fields, and I think any parents all want to best for the children, and be able to share that, have that opportunity, and also parents teach children piano, violin, all different type of things, diverse experience. I think we are probably the same, like any other parents, but at least you remember those things. Thank you for you still remember, although it's good or bad. I don't want to ask you whether there was good experience or bad experience, but still you remember those things. Hopefully they gave you some positive influence on you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the greatest stimulants for me to continue becoming a musician. I think that exposure at that age of knowing what is this grand scale performance at one of the world's greatest halls, and seeing, I mean, it was like really high quality performances like New York Phil, and we saw like Midori, it's like Perman and Recital, and so to see the toppest class artists at that age, and to have that inspiration within me, to have witnessed that, and I think that would just have been conveyed to me so differently had I watched it on video or on YouTube. Like you said, in a different environment, when you have so many distractions, when you're not required to be focused in that moment, you don't receive the energy and the message in the same way. So I think that exposure to live classical music at that age was really important for me.
Well, Esther, you in a recent interview, you mentioned that your self-worth is beyond just a musician, not just performance, but also I think in your recent interview with Julia Bullock, you feel a sense of liberation. What does that mean?
I was forced to come to this realization in a way, because once the pandemic hit, I had to learn who I was without my violin. I couldn't perform. I couldn't share my music with people. And what had become a major part of my identity, I couldn't do that anymore or be that person anymore. And so, of course, I always knew that there were, other aspects of me, but it was something that was always pushed to the side, because who I am as a musician and a violinist always took the utmost importance for me. So when that came to a halt, I had to find a way to continue living without that. And when I came to Korea, I was with my family. So I realized, okay, I'm a daughter, I'm a granddaughter, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, I'm someday going to be a wife and a mother. And so I realized there are so many different elements of me and who I am. And first of all, that brought me a lot of joy. And second of all, it brought me a great sense of security.
That is quite interesting, because I never thought you are thinking of all these things. Okay, so it is quite revealing that I find that out. Okay, so but actually that is so important, because many times we define ourselves as what we do. Like, if I don't teach, who am I going to be? I think that's the same type of things that you experience. What if I cannot perform because of the pandemic? Who am I? I think that is so profoundly strong statement, that who am I? You think about those type of things.
And also I listen to a lot of podcasts in my free time. And I was listening to this one podcast with Bruce Springsteen. And he said something that has really stuck with me about his career. And he's had an extremely long career, and he's always working on new music and new projects. And he was saying this about how he views his career. And he said, it's the most important thing in my life but it's also just rock and roll. So one thing I wanted to ask you was, how has your perception of classical music changed from the general view that you had to after seeing this world up close and personal with me and through me?
Clearly, I hear much more music at home, so I'm beginning to appreciate much more. Although I took, when I was in college, introduction to music, and clearly that served me well to understand music. But clearly the change is listening many more songs, many more pieces, not just violin, but piano, cello, orchestra, symphonies, beginning to appreciate much more about music, but also the composers. Say, who wrote this type of piece? Sometimes so emotional. Sometimes like I get a new aspiration. Sometimes I get a new strength. What type of people? Realized, so I studied, I researched these composers. Some had difficulty finding jobs, moving from one place to another. Some had a good relationship, fall in love, and some falling out of love, despair and happiness, moving to new places, lot of human drama, human episodes. And so I'm beginning to appreciate the music and the people who made the music, but also realize that, wow, the importance of musicians who will deliver the composer's view, feeling, sentiment to the audience. I have a much more appreciation for the artist, all instruments, because they are the conduit of that thought, the feeling. So many more opportunity to listen classical music, much deeper appreciation for the composers, much more appreciation for the musicians than ever before. I realized that the classical music is a village level, people, a lot of young artists, performance. Also at a national level, there's a big orchestras and concert halls, and also the world level, world famous orchestras and concert halls. And that's a big industry. There are people who are promoters, concert organizers, orchestras, publicists, artists, people tuning pianos, lightings. So many people are involved. It's a big industry, big power. And I came to realize that, as you mentioned also, the responsibility, social responsibility. Thinking about social responsibility the musicians took, I remember 1984, Bob Geldof, Band-Aid, great famine in Africa, for example. And there's a We Are the World. A lot of musicians come together. And here's a great industry, great talents. If people can work together for the goods of the society, there's so much things that we can deliver, bring the value to the world. So that is another thing, not only just the appreciation of the music and musicians, but there are so many energy, opportunity, and power that we can change the world. Thank you for thinking about and providing the program to many people.
Thank you. It's a privilege for me actually to be able to do this and to speak with so many wonderful musicians and to hear their stories and to share these vulnerable aspects of ourselves, which I think is a really beautiful thing. But thank you for coming on today.
It's my pleasure. Actually learned quite a lot from...
yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I learned quite a lot. So I think be able to learn from each other, I think it is important, and I hope I deliver some aspects that people can also use that for future. And thank you for inviting me. So can we go to eat pizza now?
Yeah.